Powell's perspective. As the anti-star gets closer, I'm able to get glimpses of it through the trees. It's an enormous flying building. It's pointed at the front and wide at the back, and it's made of metal and glass. It has to be, the Ratunek. It's a flying metal building, like the Plieki. It must be connected to the blue lightning and the new star I saw somehow. Mother Terra has finally found us. Surely, right? But, if it is the Ratunek, why aren't they going straight to Malborg? Why wouldn't they land their building right next to the Plieki? Or outside the palisades, if there wasn't room? Why are they coming from the south, where they can't be seen? And why are they slowing down? I realize they're going to land beside the lake, and so I sprint downhill along the narrow path through the brush. As the building gets a few 100 meters away, I can hear it making a low, quiet hum. I manage to find a place in the trees that gives a good view of the lakeshore, and dive into a bush just before the building arrives. I peek through the leaves as the building lands on the solid open ground beside the lake. It's about 3 times as tall as my house, twice as wide, and 6 times as long. It has an outer door that's taller than even the Pliekis. Why the hell are they landing here? I mutter to myself. The enormous door opens itself, and what steps out immediately makes my blood run cold. This is not the Ratunek. That is not a human. It may walk on 2 feet like a human. It may have 2 arms like a human, but where a human would have a face of flesh, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, and either a head of hair or a shaven scalp, this creature has a head made of metal. Shiny, flawless, silver and gold-colored metal, like I've never seen. It has no nose, no mouth, no ears, no hair, and whereas I should be, it has a single glowing green bar instead. Its hands and feet are also made of metal, and it has metal plates sticking out of its tight blue skin at its shoulders, chest, and a few other places. The creature turns the place where its face should be, left and right, slowly. Aside from the creature's unnatural appearance, it looks like it's also an unnatural size. Thickly built and, although it's difficult to tell exactly from so far away, looks like it's much taller than even Witold. It has a long, elegant-looking sword in a scabbard at its left hip, a glowing jewel set into its crossguard, and some unfamiliar object on its back. It's like a boxy tube with a bend at one end. It walks down the ramp and stands there, not seeming to be bothered at all by how exposed it is to Zmora attacks on such open ground. The next creature to come out is impossibly more terrifying than the first. This one is made almost entirely of metal, but unlike the first's silver, gold and blue skin, this metal is entirely jet black. It at least has 2 eyes, but they burn an evil red colour. It has a black sword hanging at its hip, a glowing red jewel in its hilt. In its arms, it cradles another unfamiliar object. It looks very different from the one on the first's back, but I don't know what it is either. It's slenderer than the first, but also half a head taller. Unlike the first, I recognize what this thing is. That is a Tshirt, a demon. The next out is one I also recognize as a demon. As tall as the Tshirt, she takes the appearance of an eerily beautiful woman, except her hair is ghostly white, her ears are long and pointy, her eyes glow with demonic light, her unblemished skin is dark blue in the way that makes me think of death, and she has a second set of arms below the set she has, where a human would have them. Her hands also look wrong, and it takes me a moment to realize that it's because each one is missing a finger. At her hips hang 4 knives, set with glowing jewels, and against the side of her ribcage are wrapped 4 more unfamiliar metal things, identical to each other but different from the one that the Tshirt is carrying, and the one on the back of the unidentified demon. Much shorter, for one thing. This woman is a Striga, or maybe a Dutch. I never imagined either had 4 arms, but I also thought Zazi had mouths, ears and noses, so what do I know? The next of this band of demoni is the most human-looking so far. He has a face of flesh that's just a bit different from the way people in Marburg look. If it wasn't for the company he's in, I definitely would have mistaken him for a human. He wears a helmet and is dressed in thick clothes of leather and fur, but all in dark brown colours, not like any leather I've ever seen. His face is blank, like he's bored, or like his mind just doesn't connect to it. Compared to the other 3, he looks like he's a relatively normal height. The next is a woman so pale, it looks like this is the first time her skin has ever been touched by sunlight. Her hair is a brighter golden blonde than I've ever seen on a human. Her torso and legs are clad in thick armour, and she cradles another unfamiliar object in her arms, like the Zats. Next to the human-looking man, she makes him look very short, but I think it's more that she's very tall. Not anywhere near the Striga or the Zat, but still. The next 2 are a man and a woman. The man, except for his clothes, looks like he could be from Marburg. He has got blonde hair and fair skin like Ratimir's, though younger, more handsome, and without his repulsive goatee or cocky smirk. The woman has curly hair, so dark it's almost black, and skin so dark it makes her look like she spent every day of her life outside, in a land where it's always summer. She wears a shiny cuirass over her strange clothing. The final one out is the strangest yet. The shortest of all of them, this being, looks to be entirely made of silver, blue and teal metal, except for his face. His face looks like it's made of flesh and vaguely resembles a woman's, but just off. Wrong in ways I can't put my finger on. I would say that she was a demon wearing armour, but even the demon couldn't stand up in that much armour. So this is a demon made of armour. A living suit of armour with an uncanny face of a woman stuck into it. The armour demon carries an odd weapon in both of its hands. It's like a hammer, but the head is small, and it has a long, big-shaped blade on the other side. The fair-skinned woman turns to the first demon to step down, and speaks in words that, though the wind is blowing just right to carry them to me clearly, I don't understand.
Victor, why aren't we going straight through to town? Remind me.
The metal-headed one, with the single wide green eye, answers, somehow speaking without a visible mouth.
We're just scoping out the situation today, Samus. We need to make sure we ain't got no Saints FSA deaf to our Sadans, or nothing. Reckon as is today. We come back tomorrow if we think this is something Emiko can handle herself. If not, we're gonna get a tag with us Yurtisi and give them come here. Them back here prepare Tim today. We're gonna be Sturfleck, please.
Here, someone else speaks. I think it's the Zat, from the way everyone looks at it, and the fact that I can't see anyone else's mouth moving. Its words, however, are even stranger than those of the fair woman and the blue-skinned Cyclops. It sounds like it's rattling dry bones together, in between barking vowels to speak. What vocalizations I can hear sound surprisingly feminine. The Zat's a woman? What would that make her? A Zasisa? The other Zat as if they understood, with the silver-headed demon answering,
"On right. We should get going. Don't have infinite late."
The band of demoni begin walking, but immediately stop. I follow their gaze and quickly see why. Approaching them along the shore is a pack of Zmori, 3 strong. The shortest is 3 meters at the shoulder. They each have one set of eyes pointing forward and one pointing sideways. Their fur is the light blue of foliage, but in the places where it's thin, you can see the bright oranges and yellows of the skin beneath. They pad on 4 paws at the end of 4 legs. Their short, saber-toothed snouts hang open, letting the rest of their teeth be clearly seen.
"Ah, fucking hell,"
declares the voice of the silver-headed one, who seems to be the leader.
"I'm gonna try and scare him off with my plaster sword. Guns of a red in ink is about to work."
The Striga draws the 4 unfamiliar things from the sides of her chest and holds them by the bend, pointing the other ends at the Zmori. The fair woman in the charcoal black Zarsika use both arms to point the ends of their objects at the creatures. The relatively normal-looking man and the dark-skinned woman both draw a single object from their hips, similar to the 4 that the Striga has, and, using both hands, point the ends in the same direction as everyone else. The fur-clad man steps to the back of the group, takes a bow from his back, draws an arrow from his quiver, but doesn't draw it back yet. The suit of armor with the woman's face holds a weapon in a state of readiness, beak forward. The leader doesn't draw the thing off of his back. Instead, he reaches to his hip and draws the most beautiful sword I've ever seen, before holding it above his head. I see his thumb move slightly against the hilt, before the blade starts glowing, like it's just been poured out of Slawood's forge, but very quickly goes through colours I've never seen metal glow, before it ends up glowing white, like it's been made by breaking off a piece of chores herself. It hurts my eyes to look at it. It roars with an unnatural sound, somewhere between wind and fire, but louder than I've ever heard either be. Whittle once told me that if there was air between us and shores, it would be loud enough to permanently deafen everyone on Mazori. Hearing the sound that this small piece of it makes, I can believe it. The Zmori waver, but because the Cernes that they usually hunt have mock charges as a natural part of their defences, Zmori are quite notoriously hard to intimidate. The silver-headed leader waves his sunsword back and forward a few times with diminishing returns, before announcing,
"Not working. Samus, warning volley."
The pale-skinned woman turns her device skyward, and I give a terrified squeak as the sound of thunder erupts on the end, multiple times inside of a second. The 2 smaller Zmori bolt away in fear, but the leader charges forward. The last thing I see is the green-eyed Cyclops bracing himself, the tip of his sunsword pointing forward, before an enormous cloud of steam erupts from nowhere. When the steam is gone, I see the leader putting away his no longer glowing sword over an extremely dead Zmora.
"Bloody shame,"
he says, regret in his voice.
"Should have brought Stiv. He might have known some trick for these kind of animals."
The pale woman answers, "You not think he'd have gotten himself killed trying to wrestle it?" A general chuckle goes round the band at whatever the pale one said. Demoni can make jokes, it seems. Jokes about effortlessly killing creatures that it takes a coordinated effort of dozens of armed humans to take down, but jokes nonetheless.
"Alright, let's go, everyone. Big out for more of these things," says the blue-skin leader,
who may actually be Swarog himself, now that I think about it. A Bogowi leading a band of Demoni. The unearthly band march off, looking around themselves in a way that scares me into thinking they're going to notice me. I watch them go and wait for a long time, after I can no longer see them, before I begin to consider coming out from my hiding place. While I try to work up the courage, I'm staring at the still, lifeless body of the monster that demon killed like it was nothing. He did seem to be trying to scare it off rather than killing it, but if anything, it sounded like that was more for the Zmora's sake than his. He sounded unhappy that the Zmora had made him kill it. Not proud, not happy. None of the gleeful spite that anyone from Mathery would have if they had managed to kill a Zmora. I brace myself and step out of my bush. I walk the last little bit of the path until it opens out, a few dozen meters from the water's edge. Looking around both for Zmori and Demoni, I start to walk over to the Zmora's corpse, skirting well clear of the flying house. It has a charred hole through its head from where the sun sword was driven in. It's definitely dead. I give it a kick. It's really solid.
Victor's perspective. Hello? I answer Twiller's call.
Victor, there's a kid here. A human, a local. I guess he was here since before we landed. He came out of the trees a few moments ago and is prodding the corpse of that saber-toothed wolf lion thing you killed right now.
Shit, I swear. Guys, we need to turn around.
Victor, why aren't we going straight in through then?
Fucking, god damn it.
We're just scoping out the situation today, Samus. We need to make sure we ain't got no sapiens and that's of death and Auschwitz or nothing.
Fucking hell.
We need to make sure we ain't got no sayings up that say death to Alsatians or nothing.
Fucking oh god. They're speaking English, but they're not speaking English. How do I do this?
Oh, fucking hell. And